episode of Be Freaking Awesome. I am one of your hosts, Sami Kinnison, here with Angela Belford. We are joined by a very special guest and dear friend of Angela's, Bonnie Miller. She is the president of the League of Women Voters of Arkansas. Thank you so much for joining us today, Bonnie.
Thank you so much for having me.
Angela, do you want to tell us a little bit about, let's hear from you about how you've gotten involved with the League and just how you got to know Bonnie. Give us a little bit of a setup today.
Well, I had heard about the League for a long time, and they've done some really interesting and fun projects, which I can talk a little bit about later. But a few years ago, my board time on the Continuum of Care, which is the homeless coalition that is here in Northwest Arkansas, I was terming out, and I was like, oh, okay, well, where else do I want to plug in? And so a few months before my term was out, I was like, oh, you know what? I've really always been passionate about voting, and I've been a nerd about civics. I was telling the story last night of since like ninth grade. I've loved government. I'm just a weirdo like that. And so I was like, oh, I think I'll go. Look, happens to be that the League of Women Voters of Washington County is having their annual meeting, and it was COVID. And so I could go on Zoom. And so I'm sitting there on Zoom and I'm like, oh, I guess I'll join. And then a few minutes later, they're like, we need one more person to be a director on the board. And I was like, I send a private message to my friend Laura, and I was like, I mean, I'm willing. And she's like, Angela will do it. And somebody's like, is Angela even a member? And they were like, yes. Her membership just came through. Yes, she can do it. Anyway, and I was just like, cool, that's fun, And I mean, I have a history of actually doing stuff, so that was nice. And so what I love about the League is that it is nonpartisan. So I didn't have to come out of the closet about what my political affiliation is. And I really, like I said, I've always been passionate, and we'll share some stories. So I got the opportunity to meet Bonnie Miller, and she makes me look, like I said, on the couch and eat bonbons. She is no, I'm just saying she is a powerhouse of getting stuff done and working a full-time job and the second full-time job of running the League. And she's just an inspiration to me. So I'm super excited to have her for us to talk about how important voting is and to talk about get out the vote, because it'll be coming up here in just a few months. So Bonnie, why don't you tell us how you got involved in the League?
Oh gosh. As Angela, the League will just suck you right in. We will put you to work. And so I think, I don't know if it was 6 or 7 years ago, I signed up to do a voter registration event at Fayetteville High School. And from there, I attended. I think by the time I left there, the women had signed me up for like 3 more events, some upcoming events. And then I was also really interested in redistricting at the time. And so I saw that the local League of Women Voters of Washington County was hosting a talk on redistricting reform. And I thought, well, that's cool. I'll go to that. And then I left as a member that evening. And so that was the end.
You were president within about 6 months, right?
I really wanted to work on redistricting. That was my passion. And so the League, just the great thing about the League is that there's a place for everyone. So
yeah. Okay,
yeah.
I want to tell a fun story about the League of Women Voters of Washington County, because one of the things I learned that the League does is they actually hold the government accountable. And the most tangible way I got to experience this, and I think this may have what planted the seed for me, because I got to go to this event a few years ago before I joined the League. And so rewind 20 plus years ago, city of Fayetteville had a tree ordinance that said if you are a developer, you have to plant so many trees. You have to protect so many trees. Like if you cut trees down, you have to plant twice as many, whatever the ordinance is. Okay. And they violated their own ordinance. And I had never thought about, like, how does it happen if the city violates their own law? What happens? Well, it turns out that you have to take it to the court, and somebody has to pay for or get a volunteer attorney to sue the city or the county or the state or the feds, whatever, to make them follow their own rules. And I've just never thought about how that was. Well, the League of Washington County said, you violated your own tree ordinance. And they won. And The league doesn't get a payout, but what happened is that they were ordered to put city land into a tree preservation, which, and I'm simplifying this for layman's terms, but anyway, in the result is that we have this beautiful park in downtown Fayetteville where there was this just urban forest, and it was kind of a mess for a while, but they had to protect it. They bought it, and now it has turned into this beautiful connectivity, and they've made it where it's very accessible. Like all of the grades are less than 5%, so then anybody that's in any ability can enjoy the park and enjoy the trails. And anyway, and so the league, it's their fault that they were able, and so that's like my favorite league story. And there's tons of, and Bonnie's worked on tons of other projects where she leads the effort to sue the state of Arkansas because they violate their own rules and somebody has to do it. And so anyway, that's kind of a silly little thing, but it's very cool to me because it gives real power to the people. So I love the league.
Absolutely. I remember, yeah, I remember that. I think Mary Alice was really involved at that
Yeah.
time when that happened.
Yeah. Yeah, super fun.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
I have a question for both of you. We want to use this episode to really talk to people about why voting matters and what is important about it. For each of you, why is voting important to you?
Go ahead, Bonnie.
Well, voting is really everything. We live in a republic, and that means that we are voting for the people who represent us in government, and that's really so essentially, like right now, this is like a really important job interview, and we are the ones who get to decide who gets hired. Um, and that is really important. It's a hard one, right, that we have in this country. And I know that a lot of folks feel like because of the electoral college that voting doesn't matter as much, in a federal race. Every vote counts, especially when you're talking about local politics. Your city council, your quorum court has so much power. They have all of these local bodies of government have so much more influence and power over your daily life, and your vote really, really matters, especially in those arenas. So, voting local is really important. Those races are definitely they can be made by just a few votes, if not a single vote. So every vote turnout absolutely matters. And these folks, their decisions are being made about how taxes are levied, schools, everything that affects your life. You have to vote. You have to vote on it. So voting is important to me. Also on a personal, just all around. But my family immigrated from Mexico, and so this was something that was really important to me, instilled when I was growing up, how important it was to vote and be an American, and exercise that right. So it's just something that I've always carried with me, and I always think about my family and those folks who didn't ever have that right. So yeah, it's really important.
Bonnie, I have a similar tangential story. My dad came from Canada and was not a United States citizen until a couple years ago. And so, because of that, my mom, and we'll pretend like she's not in the room while I talk about her, made a point that she was like, you only have one parent who's going to be able to instill in you how important it is to vote. So, I'm going to take 100% responsibility of that. And we went with her all the time to go vote. And I have voted
Amazing.
all over the city, different polling places, different things. I want to say I even was taken out of school at times. It was not just
Well, for a while, the polling place that we voted at was at your school, so that was super convenient to just
Oh,
take you out
great.
of. So then I would check you out of school because I would go when it wasn't as busy, and I would check you out of school for a few minutes, and they would let me just walk you down to the cafeteria, and we would vote, and then I would take you right back to school or to class.
Yeah. I even remember when I was in elementary school getting to participate in the 2004 presidential election, happened in our library. We all got to go vote, and our school's choice was different than the national election, and that did confuse me as a fourth grader. Like, wait, hold on, we voted, and what do you mean that the person that our school voted for didn't get to be president? I'm confused. Anyway,
Good civics lesson.
yes, it was an interesting time. Angela, what about you? Sorry, I stole a little bit of your thunder, but why is
No, you're.
voting so important to you?
I think because I love history, and so I have always just been kind of fanatical about how government works. I really like my favorite time of history is colonial America. My second favorite time is World War II, and both of those times are represent times when freedom was jeopardized. And in addition to being passionate about government and voting, whew, I have a lot of family members that have fought in the military, so I literally know that what they sacrificed for all of our rights. And it felt like it felt disrespectful to not exercise the right that they fought for. I mean, my uncle Jim fought in the time of Korea, and my brother was in Baghdad, and so I couldn't imagine not taking that seriously. And and also, there is an element where, like, having a spouse who came to this country and he was here legally and got to stay for a very long time because he was married to me, but he opted not to make that choice of citizenship. So he literally did not have the right to vote. He had not met the qualifications. And so I think that also kind of weighed on me, is just like, I teased him for a long time. I was like, oh, that's okay that you can't vote because you would have like cost out my vote anyway. Because we had differing views at different points in our marriage. And so I just wanted to instill that in them. And recently I was on a long plane ride. I know everybody's shocked by that, but and I actually got a chance to watch the movie Suffragette. And it was a part of history that I had not ever dug into, and that is the late 1890s, early 1900s in England, when women were fighting for the right to vote. And I mean, literally sacrificing their life, going on hunger strikes, everything. And we take it for granted, and we forget because when I was born, I'm 51. When I was born, my mom couldn't get a checking account on her own. Like, think that through. And so when we finally earned these rights, and somebody had to fight for them. And so I just am so fanatical that we have got to take those seriously, and we have to take responsibility, because we have international people on this that listen to our podcast, and they may be like, well, they don't get to vote. Not everybody gets to vote on who's running their country. Sometimes it's a dictator. Sometimes it's, chosen in different ways. And so I just take that responsibility so seriously and really believe earnestly in we the people.
Thanks for sharing your heart about that.
I get a little worked up. Which is why we're having a podcast. Y'all got to vote. So go ahead.
So you guys got to vote. What happens for the person who says, okay, you've convinced me. There's all the things out there. Fine, I will go vote. Now what? Maybe I have never voted before. Maybe I voted a long time ago, but whatever, past bit of time. Maybe I've moved. How do I go about that? What are the practical steps?
Okay, so practically the first step would be to check your voter registration status, which you can do online through the Secretary of State's website. So you can see if you are indeed registered to vote, what address, where your last registered. That needs to be updated if you don't live there anymore. So you can check your status, and if you're not registered, get registered, because the deadline is October 7th to be registered to vote in the state of Arkansas. In Arkansas, yes. Now, a little caveat there: if you were already registered, so let's say you were registered in Arkansas and you recently moved from Pulaski County to Washington County, and it is now October 27th. and you were like, oh my gosh, I need to update my voter registration. Well, you can still do that. You can do that up until 4 days before the election. You can update that address if you just moved, right, counties in the state of Arkansas and you were already registered. So that's important. Okay, so let's say you are a registered voter, everything's good, fantastic, everything's up to date. You can look at a sample ballot online so you can see what will actually be on your ballot. So you can take a look at that and see what issues you'll be voting on, who are the candidates running in the races. And from there, you can make a plan to either attend a forum on those issues, like ballot issues. The State League is going to host a ballot issue forum on October 1st. And we'll go over what a for vote means, if you vote for or if you vote against. It's all nonpartisan. Attend a candidate forum or debate, see what the candidates are saying. Some of these things are already happening, and a lot of them are posted online. You can check out something like Vote 411, which is the league's voter guide. We will ask candidates questions and post their responses online. So there's a lot of resources out there to do some research, and I don't want people to feel like this is a daunting task, because it's really not, and it's not something you need to. You certainly can devote hours to this if you want, um, but it's not. You're not taking on a huge research project or anything like that. But do a little bit of research. Look at what's on your ballot. Research the issues. Research the candidates, and make a plan. It's so important to make a plan for voting, because we all think, oh, well, we have lots of time to vote. We have early voting, we have election day, and then it just sneaks up on you. So
Yeah.
my advice to people is to vote early, and early voting in the state of Arkansas begins on October 21st. And we even have 2 Saturdays included in the early voting period. So you can do it on a Saturday. So make that plan to vote early. You can make yourself little notes, how you want to vote. You can bring that with you to your polling center. And you can also find that online through the Secretary of State's website also, or through your local county clerk, all the different polling locations. So pick your location, pick your time, bring your notes with you, vote, get your little sticker, wear it with pride. So those are practically the steps. But Angela, if I miss anything or if you have anything to add, go ahead.
Well, I'm just going to break it down. So that was a great overview. So first step is to register to vote. And I saw that Michelle Obama just posted this week on Instagram the dates for every single state of when the deadline for registration. And so if you are on Instagram and you want to know when your state is and you're not in the state of Arkansas, go check that out. In the state of Arkansas, you cannot register online. So while you can do research online, while you can check your voter registration, you actually have to fill out a piece of paper. And so and that's not hard to do, but it does take a plan, and you are investing in our country when you do that, when you make that plan. Now, the nice thing is that at least in the state of Arkansas, as long as you register once, you don't have to register ever again. If you live in the state of Georgia, can I beg you please to check your voter registration? Um, that is not a political statement. It is just that they have had some interesting rules on how, if it's been a while since you have voted, then they may have, then you may need to register again. Sammy, we talk about Sharon.
I will talk about Sharon. I was just pulling up her website to make sure I was speaking about it accurately. Okay, so America's government teacher on Instagram, Sharon McMahon, at Sharon Says So. I really love her. Number one, I pay her all sorts of money to be in her private book club, all of the things. One of the resources that she made recently, she got really frustrated that different political parties and different political candidates at times are making websites where you seemingly can check to your voter registration, and basically you provide information and then consent to get heavy marketing and advertising for various political candidates if you're not paying attention. She was very frustrated by this. She was like, this is an invasion of privacy. I don't love this. So she created a resource on her website that also can help to keep nonpartisan. So if you're worried about, I want somebody to not advertise to me heavily after this, great. That's a good resource. SharonMcMahon.com. We'll put it in the show notes. There's a silent ho in her name, McMahon, McMahon. HON. It's the joke that it's the silent ho. And I also really appreciate how she has different videos that break down how the Electoral College works, the importance of early voting, why your local government matters. I think that uh, one of the things when I've been talking to people about why it's important to vote, they're like, yeah, but the presidential election is basically decided in my state because we have always voted this way or have always voted that way. Well, number one, historically, it's actually inaccurate. I don't know that I'm gonna make a claim that somebody can prove me wrong. I don't know that there's any state that has always voted a singular party for all of history, particularly because the parties have switched and all the different things like that. But
Maybe
your
Massachusetts.
I don't, yeah, like
I'm
maybe,
just
I don't
teasing.
know, but it's not always been this way.
No.
Nothing. We've not always been a country. So you still have power. Your voice matters. And the presidential election is not the most important one at really and truthfully. There's so many other issues that can impact you at the state level for your state representatives, in your city and county level. And I know it can feel intimidating to start to approach this information. If it feels like it's too much, pick one office, pick one local office and say, today I'm going to go check out this thing. I may not go look at my entire ballot, but maybe I just want to see what my state representatives are. And today I'm going to go take some time and to dig into those candidates, figure out what they do for me, figure out what opinions they have that I agree with. And I also think one of the really interesting things is that the more local you get, the more accessible people are. So, like,
I
if
was
you want
literally
to,
hanging out with a city council member last night, and Sammy and I were hanging out with a mayor candidate 2 weeks ago.
right,
Yeah.
like, if you wanted to go meet these people, you probably have an opportunity to go meet them face to face and not just go to their website and ask questions, not just go look at all of these other things. You very likely have an opportunity that you could meet somebody face to face and have a conversation with them. If not face to face, maybe even with a key like campaign manager or on a phone call or something like that. They want to get to know you. These candidates are they're interested in earning your vote and they want you to know who they are. So, take some time to see who you want to get to know and figure out how it aligns with your values.
I want to highlight one of the resources that Bonnie talked about, and that is vote411.org. And it is a national resource that local leagues help with. And so we in Washington County had a person that literally contacted all the candidates and said, hey, we have these questions. Please go and fill out this thing. And what's cool is that some of the questions are like, in your words, what is the job you're running for? Which I
Mm.
love because I'm like, what does somebody that's a state representative versus a state senator, what is different about that, and so somebody is running for quorum court, which in the state of Arkansas is our county governing body. And so I love the vote 411 method because it will say, what are you what's the office you're running for in your words, and then why do you think you're good, and they ask some really good, what history do you have. There's like 4 or 5 questions, so it's not intimidating. What's beautiful is that you go to vote411.org, you put in your address, you don't even have to look up what races that you need to pay attention to because it says based on your address, here are the voting options you're going to have, and you take them one at a time, just like Sammy was saying. So anyway, that is a really fantastic resource. And it's also telling if the candidate hasn't answered those. So there was one candidate in my race that hadn't answered those, and I follow her on Instagram, and I went over and sent her a message and said, hi, I was looking on vote 411 and you haven't answered these questions. And it was very, I wanted to have that, and that's what they had told us as local league members, like, reach out to the candidate and say hi. They're on all the platforms, they're on their website and Facebook. I really like that you highlight, Sammy, that the candidates are accessible. There's so many of them that are having candidate coffee and little, meet and greets. And one of my friends had a house party for a mayoral candidate this week. And so there was 15 people. We were at somebody's house and you got to talk to the person that could be the mayor of your town. And we have 90,000 people in our town. This is it's very accessible if you don't let it overwhelm you, because it can feel overwhelming.
I also, Bonnie, you had mentioned bring your notes in with you. When I have talked with different people, particularly because of my sister, I end up around a lot of younger people when I'm explaining to them why voting matters, like early 20s. And there were at least five different people that were like, you can bring in notes. And I was like,
Absolutely.
what do you mean you thought you didn't have to? No, those ballots are confusing. They can be confusing. You can be like, oh crap,
Mhm.
did I want this person or that person? I like, because I'm holding so much data in my mind, now I don't remember who I wanted to vote for. Bring in your notes. I want
Yeah.
to say in Arkansas, you can bring it in on your phone as well. There are some
Hmm.
states you need to be aware that don't want you to have your phone in a polling booth with you. So if you're in one of those states, just look out for that. But in Arkansas, it's fine to have your phone. So you can make a little note app thing. You can bring in a post-it note, bring in a printed out
Mhm.
ballot where you've marked off the people, do the
Mhm.
things. I thought that was such an interesting misconception that I had never thought about before until they brought it
Yeah.
up.
I've seen people do that. Bring their full, they printed out the sample ballot and filled it out ahead of time. And yeah, I think that's really helpful, especially if you're a first time voter.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and there's a really good resource. I think it was through, I'll try to send it to y'all. I think it's through the Washington County Election Commission. And they go through and they show you how to actually use the electronic machines. Which again, if
Mm.
you're a first time voter and you've never used them, it might seem a little daunting and a little like overwhelming, like, oh, I don't know what I'm gonna do or where to press or whatever. And they walk you through actually like from when you walk in and they hand you that little paper ballot, what to do with it, how to put it into the machine so it puts your info, and then how to take that and put it into the voting machine. It's a really good walk through that so you can get a sense of what it is that you're actually going to be doing before you go and do it.
I
Hmm.
like that. I do really like that in our state and county, you get that printout back and you can see what your selections were. So somebody who wants to say that, well, it's submitted, but you don't actually know how it was submitted. Nope. It's still sort of de facto feels like a paper ballot that I then go put in my box because with the printed out answers I've selected. So that's always nice.
Here's the other thing is that I've had experience in central Arkansas and here. And in Arkansas, a lot of the people that volunteer, or maybe they're paid to work the polls, that means the day that you go in to place your vote, it's somebody that has to take off work or is maybe retired. And so I'm telling you, it is like sometimes people, there's, I guess, other states that it may be scary or people feel intimidated by going to vote. But in the state of Arkansas, you're most likely going to run into somebody's grandma. And so they're so sweet and so kind and very helpful. And I would say probably the vast majority of poll workers are there because they really believe in the democratic process and they want to. My grandma was a poll worker for years and years and years, and they want to make sure. So don't be afraid to ask questions. They can't tell you how to vote, but they can tell you like how, like if that machine, if you go, oh crap, I didn't watch that video, then they will say, do you know what you're doing? And here, let me show you. And they will tell you how to put the ballot in. So anyway, they're very, very kind. And um, so don't, I mean, you get to feel how you want to feel and work through your overwhelm to push through. And early voting helps because then you're going to the courthouse and you don't feel pressured and you haven't taken time off work maybe, and to just we go as a family.
That's so nice.
Well, we say we go as a family. We
Well,
also go as a business. That our
it's true.
business takes off, and well, we actually don't take off. Our business collectively walks down to the courthouse together. Everybody gets to stay on the clock and stay paid. Um, I guess technically I might need to make sure that everybody knows that it is optional, but I don't know. I'm sort of like, we're doing this. Voting is important. Let's all go.
I
But
love that.
as an employer, we want to provide that opportunity to make sure that our employees don't have, they don't want to add an extra reason why it's hard for them. And so we pay them for their time going to the polls because that's part of our civic duty to the country and to all the things. We could ramble forever and ever on voting and all of the things. What sort of wrap up thoughts or encouragement would you have for people this season?
Oh gosh. Well, I just think voting is fun. I, for me, I think it's fun. I have historically, my plan has been to vote on election day. It feels like a really special holiday to me. I just try to, I think, along with a lot of other elder millennials of my generation, try to romanticize everything. Make it an event, make it a thing. And so I very much treat voting that way, and as it should be. It's really special. It's like, you're going on a date with democracy, right? Like it feels very, it's fun. I want to, I'll do, maybe I'll do something to my hair beforehand. It's like I'm taking myself out on the most like important date with democracy. It's fun. I want to romanticize it. I have a watch party that evening. Watch party. Watching the results. It's a really important, fun day and fun practice. And to y'all's points earlier, we really need to get younger folks voting for many reasons, but because voting is something that is habit forming. So when you do it at a young age, and when Angela was taking you with her to go vote, you are instilling that practice and that importance on younger folks, and that is so important for younger kids and for younger individuals, for younger adults to see other people voting, and also to make it a practice and a habit in their own life. So you start young, and then it just becomes part of your life, part of your practice. It's a habit. You have to exercise, right? Like exercise that right to vote, and then you keep doing it throughout life. You were developing lifelong voters. So make it fun, romanticize it for all those elder millennials like myself. Make it a thing.
I would say it is never too late to be a first-time voter. My favorite stories in the league are when we have someone that is like 78 years old, 82 years old. This is my first time to vote in an election. This is the first time I feel like my voice really matters. And so they're getting registered to vote. And I just warms my heart, first time voters and return as well. But when it's like somebody is of a certain age and they're like, yeah, maybe it's time. I want to set a good example for my kids and my grandkids, so it's never too late to be first. Well, in Arkansas, I guess on October 8th it might be. So get your registration in, but don't let age hold you back. If you've never done it, I've never voted. I know sometimes people are like, oh, I don't want to register to vote because I don't want to end up on jury duty.
They're going to find you. They're going to find you.
Or they won't. Or you could be desperate to do your civic duty and want to be on jury duty, and everyone around you gets selected multiple times and you never get selected. That could also happen.
I'm with you. I have never been chosen, and I am upset about it.
I am upset too, and I'm so grateful.
Literally start jury duty on October 1st.
Dang it.
I know. And my husband has been called like 4 or 5 times. Angela's been called 3 times, 3 or 4 times. This is my 4th. I'm so mad about it. So apparently all you have to do is want it. If you want it, then they won't select you. So
totally, absolutely.
So I say I've had jury duty. Just so we're clear, like it's a 90-day period where you are on call to be called for jury duty, and all of the time. So this is my 4th time. The other 3 times, I have been called 1 time, and I was 8 months pregnant with Sami. And I walked in, and they were like, yeah, you're going to be excused. We do not need you. Thank you very much.
Well, also, that's just for the county or the state, because you can get called in different types of things. You could get called for county court. You can get called for state. You can get called for federal court.
Yes.
There's all sorts of different things. I'll take any of them. Please, somebody out there listening,
I'm just telling you, I've gotten called for county, and it just means you're on call for jury duty. So don't let it stress you out. Don't let it hold you back from, it's just, I'm going to turn it into a date. Now that I've said on the podcast, I've never been actually called in. I was chatting with someone else that's just ending their jury duty last night, and he said, I don't even know if they would take me because I know all the attorneys in Northwest Arkansas. I'm like, yeah, me too. I'm friends with half the judges in Northwest Arkansas, or at least in Washington County. I'm just not sure that they, but.
Thank you guys so much for just participating in this conversation and helping to spread some information so that people don't have to feel so nervous. They can feel confident to step forward, have a plan, register, bring a buddy, do whatever it is that they need to do, because voting matters. And I Angela, you said it best earlier. One of the better ways to be freaking awesome is to go out and vote. So we love you guys so much. We hope you guys go be freaking awesome and vote. Have a great rest of your day.